Well, good morning. Welcome to Front Range. Glad you guys are here today. My name is Mike Surratt. I'm executive pastor here at Front Range, and just glad to be with you all today here in the room, those of you watching online, those of you joining us outside on the patio on this warm morning. And if it's your first time here, I want to especially welcome you. And we hope that this place becomes a home for you, a place where you can build community, discover your purpose, and grow in your faith in Jesus. And if you are new, I'd love to meet you. And so afterwards, I'll be out in the lobby under the welcome home sign. Just come say hey. Love to chat, answer any questions. If you were here a few weeks ago, you might have heard make the announcement that starting on August 17th, we're going to 3 services as a church. That's right. We're having to make more room. We've had so many people coming over the last few months, and we're going to be adding a 3rd service here. So starting August 17th, we're going to have service times at 8 o'clock, 9:30, and 11. And again, it's not for like a whole month. So if you show up next week at 8 a.m., we're just going to put you to work. So you got a little bit of time, figure out which service you want to come to. And in order to make that possible, to make more room and add the 3rd service, we need a lot of help. And so we launched a campaign, we're calling our Say Yes campaign, where we're looking for 100 people to step up and say yes to serving here at Front Range, using their gifts, using their talents, to be able to make this thing happen. And so we're looking for people who want to help greet at the doors, people who want to help find seats, help other people find seats, be an usher, help serve communion, help serve snacks in the cafe, help love on babies in the nursery, help teach kids during the service, help park cars outside, everything. It all has to happen in order to be able to add a 3rd service. So we've been looking for 100 people. We've had 25 so far step up, which is awesome. And so if you've ever been interested in serving at Front Range, I encourage you, check this out. We have a booth with a big banner out in the lobby. Can't miss it on your way out. Got all the information there, can answer questions, tell you all the different places we have available to serve. You can also go to our website, frontrange.org. There's a serving page listed all out there as well. And we've got 2 opportunities for people who want to go even further. One of those is our internship, which is great for people who might be interested in learning kind of the why behind what we do, diving a lot deeper into who we are as a church, how ministry works. Maybe if you're interested in ever being in ministry at some point in time, internship is awesome. It's about 15, 20 hours a week, and it's paid, but it's also a great opportunity to really dive into one of our ministries. And like I said, kind of see the nuts and bolts of how things come together and help be a part of that and shaping what we do here at Front Range. And the other thing is something we just started brand new, and it's called Ministry Partners. And so what we look for is people who might have just a couple hours during the week, might be able to help do something here. All of our ministries have kind of identified, all right, where do we need help in, during the week? And so we've put on our website all of these potential ministry partner spots listed all out, kind of what we need, where the help in what areas are. And so you can go to the website, frontrange.org, under the serving page. There's ministry partners. You can see all of that. There's a button there for a short application if that's something that you might be interested in helping. Because in order to make more room, so this can become a home for more people, we need more people jumping in and helping. Now today, I have the privilege of delivering the best sermon ever. That's right. Some of you are like, I'm tired of this joke, but no, I get to do it this time. But yeah, I had the team work up some graphics and a video just for me in my honor, and I figured, you know what? This is as good as it's going to get for you guys. Until next week, that is, though, because you might know this is a series we've been in called Best Sermon Ever, where we've been looking at the Sermon on the Mount that Jesus preached out of the book of Matthew and how it applies to our life. And I would encourage you, if you haven't, check out our series hub for this series. We do a series hub for every series on our website under the messages page. And for this one, we've got resources. We've got the other best sermons ever listed on there as well if you want to watch, if you missed a week in the series. And one of the resources that we have available in there is this book. It's called The Narrow Path by Rich Villodas. Some of the ideas in the series came out of this book. A lot of the ideas you'll hear today came from this. It's a great book, so if you're interested in reading, diving a little bit deeper on the Sermon on the Mount, I encourage you to check out this book. You can find out all the information on the series hub. Now, how many of you guys would agree with me that we kind of live in an angry world or an angry society? Anybody else feel that way? Like, it feels like these angry people everywhere. In fact, I'm willing to bet that some of you today got angry just on your way here to church. Anybody want to give a testimony to that? All right, we've got a few. It gets everywhere. In fact, I saw a list the other day of some of the top things that make people angry. And so I thought I'd read a few of these, see if they resonate with you like they did with me. So first one, how about sitting in unnecessary traffic? Does that make anybody else angry? All right, we got a few. All right, that's good. How about this one? The person in front of you not using their blinker when they turn. Yeah, anybody? Okay, we got a few more on that one. How about when you're being asked for a tip and all you're buying is a bottle of water? Anybody? Yeah, we got a few more of those. Yeah, I know. It's a fun one. Last one here. How about when your wife is supposed to be giving you the directions in the car, but she told you too late about a turn and now you have to turn around and do a U-turn? Anybody else? Yeah, some of you are like, Mike, that's a little specific there. And I should probably be honest with you. The list I'm reading from is a list I made of things that tend to make me angry. And I'm noticing there's 3 out of 4 driving, so I have an anger problem when getting behind the wheel. Now, anger, though, it's normal in our society, right? I mean, everybody gets angry. I saw a poll the other day that of Americans where they said that Americans feel angrier now than they ever have before. And there's all kinds of factors that go into that, but angrier now than ever before. And it's not just normal, but it's profitable, right? I mean, there are news networks based on the fact that if they can make you angry, they could probably get you to keep watching and make more money. I mean, social media has found that posts that are designed to make people angry or rage bait, I believe as the kids call it, that gets more clicks, more likes, more views than any other post. And so I'm willing to bet that you encounter, no matter what platform you're on, probably every day, encounter posts that are designed for the sole purpose of making you angry. It's crazy. It's everywhere. But in this series, we are looking at the Sermon on the Mount, and we're looking at the countercultural way that we are called to live our lives by what Jesus said in that sermon in the book of Matthew. So today, I thought it'd be good to look at what Jesus has to say about anger, about how we deal with it, how we're supposed to deal with it, and then also what are the consequences when it's left unresolved? What are the consequences when we don't deal with our anger? So I want to jump right in. We're going to be in the book of Matthew, chapter 5. If you have your Bibles, you can turn there. If you don't have a Bible, it'll be on the screen. You can read along. If you'd like a Bible, we have plenty of them available in the back on the tables. You can grab one whenever you want. You don't have to talk to anyone or fill anything out. Just take it. It's free. We're going to be in the book of Matthew, chapter 5, starting in verse 21. I just want to read this section all together, and then we'll kind of look at it. Here's what Jesus said. You have heard that it was said to the people long ago, you shall not murder, and anyone who murders will be subject to judgment. But I tell you that anyone who is angry with a brother or sister will be subject to judgment. Again, anyone who says to a brother or sister, Raka, is answerable to the court. And anyone who says, you fool, will be in danger of the fire of hell. Therefore, if you are offering your gift at the altar and there remember that your brother or sister has something against you, leave your gift there in front of the altar. First go and be reconciled to them, then come and offer your gift. Now there's a lot there. Like, what does the word raka mean? And it sounds like Jesus says if you ever get angry, you're going to hell. So what I want to do is I want to start at the top. We'll kind of work our way through, see if we can learn through it. Because at the very top, Jesus says, you've heard it said that you shall not murder. And what he's kind of referencing there is back then people kind of, their standard, if you will, for whether or not they had an issue with anger or if their anger was sinful was if they actually like physically acted and attacked or did something to someone else, then it was a problem, right? That was one of the 10 commandments. You shall not murder. So like back then, the bar basically was you get to the end of the day and you just ask yourself, did I murder anyone today? And if the answer was no, then you're good. Like you don't have a problem with anger. You're good. There's nothing really to worry about. And Jesus is saying, yeah, that bar is like way down here. Like that's nothing. And he's saying there is a much more righteous, there is a much more positive way to live your life than just not murdering people. And so then in the next verse, in verse 22, he says, but I tell you, anyone who is angry with a brother or sister will be subject to judgment. And that's kind of hard to reconcile because, like, we have examples of Jesus being angry in the Bible, right? I mean, the most famous one is when he went into the temple and he drove out all the merchants that were there, flipped over the tables, because these people were there and they were selling animals or things for people who needed to make a sacrifice in the temple, but they were selling them at extremely high prices, like completely ripping them off, making way too much money off the people who had to come there to make their sacrifice. And so Jesus got angry. He went in there, drove them all out. And then we have another example, actually, in the book of Mark that I wanted to read. Mark chapter 3, in fact, of Jesus being angry. It's Mark chapter 3, starting in verse 1. It says, "Another time Jesus went into the synagogue, and a man with a shriveled hand was there. It says some of them," now the them was the Pharisees or the religious leaders in that day, "were looking for a reason to accuse Jesus. So they watched him closely to see if he would heal him on the Sabbath." They had another one of the 10 Commandments was that you had to keep the Sabbath holy. And so these people had a list, like a legalistic list of like do's and don'ts of what you were allowed to do on the Sabbath and what you weren't allowed to do. They considered healing work, I guess, and so it wasn't allowed. And it said, Jesus said to the man with the shriveled hand, "Stand up in front of everyone." Then Jesus asked them, "Which is lawful on the Sabbath, to do good or to do evil, to save life or to kill?" But they remained silent. It says he looked around at them in anger and deeply distressed at their stubborn hearts, said to the man, "Stretch out your hand." He stretched it out, and his hand was completely restored. So we see in both those examples, that one there says Jesus looked around in anger. And this anger that Jesus had, it was kind of a righteous or redemptive anger. It wasn't anger because someone said something to him or did something to him or something happened to him. It was an anger because people were being taken advantage of. Like these people were abusing their power to oppress and take advantage of other people. And I think that's an anger that all of us have inside of us. Like all of us, when we see injustices, when we see people being taken advantage of, when we see those things happen, it makes us angry, every one of us. And that's why, as a church, like we've partnered with organizations that actually help do something about this. Why we partner with Hope's Promise here in this community, because they really help with orphans, and they help with adoption, foster care. They help kids who are vulnerable. That's why we partner with Wellspring here in Castle Rock, because they champion adults with special needs. That's why we send mission teams out to countries like Kenya and Costa Rica, because not only are we helping people there, but we're also spreading the gospel to places that have never heard it before. Because there's just something inside of all of us that wants to do something when we see these injustices, and we know this can be fixed. And I think that's completely normal, and that's not really the anger that Jesus is talking about here. That anger, I mean, is an emotion. I mean, all anger is an emotion given to us by God, right? It's like a warning sign in our life. It's like something's wrong and something needs to be fixed. And what Jesus is talking about, when we look at the actual Greek word he uses when he uses the word anger, it translates literally to remaining angry. It's an anger that sits in our heart, an anger that festers, an anger that we hold on to, that turns into resentments, and it turns into contempt for someone else. It turns into something that becomes destructive in our lives because it starts to guide our thoughts, it starts to guide our words, and it starts to guide our actions. It's an anger that doesn't lead to justice, but it leads to destruction. And that's the anger that Jesus is talking about, this anger that we hold on to against someone else because of something that happened to us or something that was said, and we hold on to it. And so what we're going to see in this passage and the rest of it is, I think there's three ways, three kind of steps to help us deal with anger in the way that Jesus calls us to. And so the first one of those is to acknowledge that we feel it, to acknowledge, allow ourselves to feel it, to feel the anger. Because like I said earlier, we all get angry, like it's an emotion given to us by God. And sometimes, though, I think as Christians, we view all anger as sinful. and we start to lie to ourselves and to others that we're not angry, we don't have a problem, and we just kind of stuff it inside and just hope that it doesn't come exploding out somewhere else. And so one of the first steps is really, it's honestly just allowing ourselves to acknowledge that, yes, we are angry. Allow ourselves to feel it, to be angry. But the danger comes, obviously, when we hold on to that. And that's why Jesus really honed in on how we treat other people and the words we use when we're angry. So in that second half of verse 22, he says, again, anyone who says to a brother or sister, "Raka," is answerable to the courts. And anyone who says, "You fool," will be in danger of the fire of hell. And that word "raka" there, it's not one that we use today. Like it's not, a common word. And it kind of what it was meant for is it kind of was used to say that someone else was worthless or that they had no value, right? It would be something that you would say out of a resentment for someone else. And we may not use that word today, but I think we've got other four-letter words that can carry some of the same meaning, if you know what I'm saying. And I think a lot of us, we say and we think this about other people, that they're worthless or their value is less than ours when we start becoming affected by the anger inside. And so we start to believe that about people. We start to think that about people that might be a little bit different than us. People that might make us mad. People that might not have the same beliefs as us. We think that. People that might vote differently than us. We believe that. People that might view immigrants differently than us. We believe that. People that spend their money differently than us. We believe that. People that offend us. People that make us angry. And we hold on to it, and we start to believe things and say things about them, and it changes the way that we view them, and it changes the way that we value them. And so it's dangerous. That's why at the end Jesus says it will be in danger of the fire of hell. Because allowing that anger to just fester and grow inside of our hearts, it changes how we treat those around us. But the first step in dealing with anger is, again, to allow ourselves to feel it. The second step that we have is to examine the deeper reason. To examine the deeper reason. I remember when I was a kid, there were a few times when my dad would ask me to do something, and I would, forget, not do it, get distracted, whatever. And I remember a few times thinking like he would go from like 0 to 100 when it came to anger because of it didn't do it the first time. I remember always thinking like, why is he getting so angry? Like, I'm gonna do it. It was like mowing the lawn, doing the dishes, cleaning my room, probably a lot of things. But I remember thinking like, why are we getting so angry here? Like, it's gonna get done. I just forgot, I didn't do it, whatever. And then fast forward many years, and now I'm a parent of my own with 3 kids. And all I can say is, I get it, right? I get the anger that comes when your kids don't do things the first time you ask. And it's taken me a long, long, long time as a parent to realize that the anger is not just because like this task isn't getting done. That's really not the big deal. But like for me, ultimately, like I have a need to be respected. And like I feel disrespected when my kids don't listen the first time and don't do what I ask, and I have to repeat myself. And so I have this like deep need inside, and the kids sometimes don't meet the need as, it's not their fault, but yet because that's not being met in me, this anger comes out. And it's taken me a long time, like I said, to realize what's happening there. And it's my job to recognize that I'm getting angry, but then also to examine the deeper reason. And that is way easier said than done. That's why I think it's important to have someone in your life, or even a small group of people that you trust, that can help process through times when you do get angry. Because, how many of us have ever responded in a situation with way more anger than the situation really called for? Like it was just the tipping point for a whole lot of other baggage to come crashing down. And I think ideally in those situations, we'd be able to take some time, go to God in prayer, and just ask for help in examining what's going on. What's the deeper reason behind this? And then ultimately get to a place where we can identify that before it ever gets to that point. But having a person or a group of people to help process with is a huge, huge help there. That's why we as a church, we recommend counseling. Like, counseling is for everybody. And it's a huge help in situations like this when you're trying to process through what's going on, process through what's causing this anger. And so the first step is to allow ourselves to feel it. Second step is to examine the deeper reason. And then the third step that we have in dealing with anger is to reconcile the resentment. Reconcile the resentment. In the last section of this passage, Jesus makes an interesting connection between how we treat other people and our relationship with God. And so in verse 23, he says, "Therefore, if you're offering your gift at the altar, and there remember that your brother or sister has something against you, leave your gift there in front of the altar. First go and be reconciled to them, and then come and offer your gift." And what he's doing there is Jesus is explaining kind of how people would worship back then. Because they would worship by bringing a sacrifice to the temple. It wasn't necessarily every Sunday like we do, but it was their way of worshiping God. It was their worship service, was coming and bringing the sacrifice. And I think the best way to do is just kind of put yourself in their shoes, all right? So let's say it's time for you to bring your sacrifice to the temple, and you got to walk there, of course. Let's say a couple hours to walk there. You get there and you got to wait in line because you need to buy the animal for the sacrifice. And not just buy your animal, you got to buy it at a ridiculously high price. Because it's kind of like if you've ever been to like a Nuggets game or a Rockies game or a Broncos game, and you're in the stadium and you get thirsty, you need to buy a drink. Well, the people in the stadium know you're going to get thirsty and need to buy a drink. And they know you're going to buy it there, so they can charge whatever they want, right? That's what these people in the temple were doing. So you wait in line, let's say for an hour or so. You get to the front, you pay a ridiculously high price for this animal. Then you got to go get in another line because you got to give it to the priest for the sacrifice. So you probably wait another hour in line. And when you finally get to the front of that line, like it's your turn, Jesus is saying, right then, if you realize that you've got beef with Bob, what you need to do is you need to leave your animal right there. You need to step away. You need to go and you need to find Bob. And remember, this is 2,000 years ago. You can't text him. You can't call him. You got to find him wherever he is. Could take a couple hours. You got to work it out, talk it through, then come back and finish that process of the sacrifice. And there's no way that animal's still going to be there. And there's no way they're going to let you back in that line that you left. And all of this was to demonstrate that our relationship with God is connected to how we treat other people. It's connected to what's going on inside of us. And so there's a connection. Like it can't be separate. There is no having a relationship with God over here, but then harboring resentment and anger with someone over here. Like it doesn't work that way. Even though I would like it. I'd love to have a relationship with God just over here on this side, and then I can treat people however I want over here and have it not really mean anything. But that's not how Christianity works. Jesus says that our love for God is demonstrated in how we treat other people. Our love for God is demonstrated in how we love and how we forgive. And that's why we have the Great Commandment in the Bible, where it says that loving your neighbor as yourself is equally as important as loving God with all your hearts, your mind, and your soul. That there's a connection there. And so what Jesus is saying is before these people would even come to their worship, even if in the middle of this worship experience, they realize they're harboring anger, they're harboring resentment, they're harboring something against someone else, to go, to figure that out before coming and finishing their worship. That's how important it is. And so reconciliation, it looks different in every situation. It does. And so as a church, we thought we might just throw out some steps that might help get to that point. So we're going to put just 4 steps up on the screen. You can write them down, take a picture, whatever you want to do. But these are our 4 steps, kind of a practice or an exercise. It's best done starting first with prayer, but then taking that, writing it down, writing out answers, and then processing them with someone else, somebody that you trust. And so first thing there is to name the source. That's very surface level. All right, What's making you angry? What is it? Second thing is what was the cause? What happened? Like, what's the story behind it here? Where kind of get a little bit more information in. And then third is how it affects you. This is where you kind of start to examine the deeper reason a little bit and start to think about the emotions surrounding it, what else is happening, what's going on, physically and mentally and spiritually when processing through what happens. And then the last thing is what is your part? And some situations, it might be recognizing where you need to ask for forgiveness or apologize. And in some situations, your part might simply be just letting go. Letting go. And that might take a few cycles through there. But in the end, we're called to let it go. And then that reconciliation, it may look like a text, it may look like a phone call, a meeting, or it may not be possible. It might just take more prayer in asking God for help, in forgiving, and in letting go. But ultimately, we have a God who is slow to anger, a God who is quick to forgive, and a God who is always loving. And it's our job to try and be more and more like him every day. Let's pray. God, thank you for this time we have today. Lord, thank you for this opportunity. Lord, I thank you that you have given us all this emotion of anger. God, this warning sign in our life that something's not right. God, I pray that you would help us, all of us, Lord, in here, first of all, to allow ourselves to feel it, to recognize what's going on, to know that God, it's okay to be angry. And you've given us many valid reasons to be angry, but there's no valid reasons to hang on to it and let it destroy us. And God, I pray that you'd help us to then examine the deeper reason. Lord, to be able to see what's causing that and what's going on in our life around it. And ultimately, God, to be able to move towards reconciliation, to reconcile any resentment that's happening in our hearts. God, we know that it's only through your power that we can do that. It's only through your help, God, that we can let go of what we're holding on to. Lord, I pray that we would recognize how destructive that can be in our lives. God, that we would recognize how destructive that we can be to other people when we hold on to that. Lord, I pray you would help us all to work towards reconciliation and work towards letting it go today. God, we thank you that you are slow to anger, you are quick to forgive, and that you do always love us. Lord, it's in your name we pray. Amen.